It's time to make sports talk great again with Curt Schilling and Steve Deace.
And we do that by having one simple rule on this show. We talk sports each and every weekday here on CRTV. I am Steve Deace, and my future Hall of Fame World Series champion co-host Curt Schilling joins me each day. Good to see you, Curt. You ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
So each day we put 25 minutes on the clock. We talk as many sports topics as we can. But of course, today is a very big day on the sports calendar. So the entire show, this special free episode, is devoted to the Fall Classic. I mean, when we're sitting here with a guy that knows a thing or two about winning a World Series, why wouldn't we use him as a resource, right? So we've got 25 minutes on the clock. Curt Schilling, are you ready to break this Fall Classic down?
As ready as I'm ever going to be.
Then let's get the clock going right now. Let's take a look back before we look ahead. The road here for both of these teams, the Red Sox and the Dodgers, a lot of people had them pegged for greatness before the season. They were all over the preseason polls, magazines, etc. And the Red Sox, had a historic level of run here where they had 108 wins. They may end up with the top two guys in the MVP balloting, which hasn't happened in this sport in almost 20 years. Probably until about mid-August, they had the certified American League Cy Young Award winner in Chris Sale before his arm problems. I mean, their lineup is an all-star lineup. I think it's possible you could take the best 9 the Red Sox put on in a lineup against the rest of the American League and have it be competitive. The lineup they have is insane. The Dodgers, a little bit more of a broken road. Slow start for them, and then they cranked it up in the second half of the season. So your thoughts on these two teams and how they got here, Curt?
Well, I got to tell you, I don't like being surprised by statistics, and I didn't realize this, but did you know this is the 6th straight year the Dodgers have been in the postseason? I didn't realize that. I mean, I
knew they'd been to 4 straight now NLCSs. Right. I didn't know they'd been to the postseason 6 straight times.
Yeah,
right.
6 straight times. Boston is attempting to become, since 1961, just the 5th team to win 108 or more games and win a World Series, just the 5th since 61. So there's, and you and I talk a lot about gambling and betting games and trends and stuff. I never looked at any of this stuff from a trend perspective as a player. You always look at what's in front of you, and it's gonna. I love matchups that you don't see. They've never met in the World Series. I love the fact that it's been 100 some years since they've seen each other. I think it was
1916, and the Red Sox star player was a young emerging star whose last name was Ruth, first name Babe. Yeah,
heard about him. Yeah, I heard he was actually pretty decent. But there's so many storylines going into this. You got two guys who played together and against each other almost their entire careers. You got Alex Cora managing the Red Sox against the team that drafted him. You've got these neat little sidelines. You've got Manny Machado, who's not a fan favorite in Boston by any stretch. You've got 2 storylines on the mound. You got Price, even though he did pitch really well and help them get to the World Series, there's still going to be questions as he goes game 2. Kershaw, I think, is another guy he's thrown a couple really good games in the postseason, but I think he's still trying to get that final piece. I almost feel like it's like Ovechkin in the Stanley Cup last year. Like everybody feels like Kershaw's career won't be complete without a World Series, which I think is crap.
It's a good analogy.
I don't buy that for a second. But I looked at the rotations. I looked at the bullpens. I asked myself, and you and I went through a list. You sent me a really good list of questions, and I went through all of them, and I looked through all of them, and I went from the sports broadcaster's perspective with the big answers, and then I'll show you on TV. So this is the beginning of my notebook, and this looks a little bit like my pitching notebook, scrabbled in Sanskrit and all the other stuff. And it gets down into some detail of things that matter to me as I begin to look at this World Series. So let's start with the pitching staffs, right? You've got Sale, you've got Price, you've got Eovaldi, and then Porcello. Those are your 4 Boston starters. 2 righties, 2 lefties. And as you look at the Game 1 lineup, listen to this. Taylor, Turner, Freese, Machado, Kemp, Puig, Hernandez, Dozier, Barnes, 9 righties going against Sale. Now, and here's the thing. Sale and Kershaw, when they're good, they're both kind of hitter agnostic. It doesn't matter if you hit left-handed or right-handed. They're so good they can get you out either way. But we have a problem in this sense. When they go to L.A., Cora has said J.D. Martinez is going to be in the Red Sox lineup. J.D. Martinez is the Red Sox DH and the most productive hitter, which means Andrew Benintendi or Jackie Bradley Jr., the ALCS MVP, is going to be sitting. And this happened when we went in 2004. David Ortiz had to play a game at first base, and he hadn't been there in a long time. But the fact of the matter is you got Sale, which takes away Bellinger, and their bench is going to be full of lefties.
How confident? What's your confidence level on Sale heading into this series tonight? He is he's the X factor in this one of the X factors in this series for me, because I still don't believe the belly button infection story. There's a picture of him in the paper yesterday, and I had to laugh as I listened to Boston Sports break the picture down. But the fact of the matter was, if you look at my elbow, the picture that they showed of him, he had a massive red lump on his elbow. And I've thought from day one that when I saw him come back and throw, the first thing medically that I thought about was bone chips. I had those in 1994, and I could pitch every couple of weeks. I wasn't taking weeks off, but I could pitch fine for a while, and then it would flare up when I was on the mound. And I'm not wondering if he's not dealing with that because of the pattern. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying I've questioned it from day one. All of this, and I think that there's still something wrong. I'm sure that he might have been sick and all the stuff that goes with that and whatever, but I still think there's more to that. On the flip side, Kershaw, Hill, Ryu, and Buehler. And if you notice one thing, those first three guys, all lefties. Right. And that is, I think it's significant for this reason. I've always said, and I know this is almost a taboo in Boston. I think when all said and done, Andrew Benintendi is going to be the best hitter in this offense. Mookie Betts is, I'm probably way behind on that one, but the left-handers are going to neutralize him. I looked at their records versus righties and lefties. Obviously, both pitchers do better against lefties and righties, but they're so good that they're good right. So I'll give you the average on base percentage and slugging percentage for right-handers. Against Kershaw, it's 211, 266, 310. None of those numbers is good. Against Sale, it's 222, 277, 365. Those are bad numbers for anybody. A couple things to watch during the series, though, Steve. When you swing at the first pitch against Clayton Kershaw, his strikeout to walk ratio for hitters that swing at the first pitch is 10-1. Is that good? When you don't swing at it, it's 3-1. So yeah, obviously that's good. But it's that's a tremendous ratio, though. Yes, yeah. That's a game changer. Is what it is. Yeah. And here's the thing. Again, breaking down either one of these guys, Clayton Kershaw's best ERA for an inning is the first. It's 2.45. His best is the fifth at 167. His worst is the sixth at 3.05. In going through the numbers for ERAs for innings, it like the obvious numbers, as you face hitters more and more, the numbers don't get better. They kind of get worse, and that's the theory behind all this bullpen stuff. But the fact of the matter is neither of these guys' numbers get bad. Is what I'm trying to say. These are two of the premier left-handers of this generation going up against each other. Let me give you a little cool stat. Clayton Kershaw's lowest batting average against is what pitches do you think he has his best batting average against for him? What pitches you mean in the count? In the number of pitches. So when he throws pitches, 55 to 75, the bat it's done 1 to 25, 26 to 50, 51 to 75. Well, based on what the numbers you just told me, where his best innings the fifth, his worst innings the sixth, his strikeout to walk ratio is 10-1, which is Hall of Fame in the first inning, and it goes down to if you swing at the first pitch, and it goes down to 3-1, which is pretty good, but that's a pretty big chasm. I would guess that somewhere in the 60 to 75 pitch range. 76 to 100 are his best pitches, are his most effective pitching numbers, and that really defies what we're watching in this generation of bullpens, right? I mean, because a lot of these guys aren't even allowed to get to pitch 76, right? And I think that's going to be a theme in this series that I think you're going to see
some similarities, but I think you're going to have the one manager working his butt off to get to his pen. Dodger pen, by the way, in the postseason, 41 2/3 innings. 27 hits, 51 punch-outs, and a 1.30 ERA. They've been lights out.
All right, so let's go through this unit by unit. You tell me which unit you think here has the advantage. Based on the numbers you just gave us, starting pitching, you'd rather be managing which starting pitching staff in this series, Curt?
Dodgers. Yeah, Dodgers. I just feel like and one of the other X factors in all this is Nathan Eovaldi has looked phenomenal since coming over to Boston. And I really liked what I saw from him in the ALCS. But when I look at the pitching staffs, I can't help but give the bullpen advantage as it sits right now. And
that was my next question, the bullpen, because so many postseason games are won in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings, right?
That's all it is now,
or
right?
lost for that matter. Yeah.
Right. Everybody's racing to the bullpen. I don't think this is going to be as big a race to the bullpen for Alex Cora as it is for Dave Roberts.
Meaning one manager is eager to get to his bullpen and the other is going to hold it off as long as he possibly can.
Because he's not really sure what he's getting, and for some reason, his closer has become the wild thing. And I got to tell you, that's concerning for me because Craig Kimbrell, that's not his past. I had flashbacks of watching Mitch Williams do his thing.
You mean walking the bases loaded in a game 5, and then you need a diving catch to save a game that probably won you the series? That's not how to win, you don't think?
And that's not who Craig Kimbrell has been.
Right.
I've always loved closers that are pitchers. Very few closers are pitchers. They're throwers. You look at these guys like all of the older Frankie Rodriguez, who had a phenomenal break, but they were throwers. They're max effort throwers. Craig Kimbrell is a pitcher with filthy wipeout stuff, but he's become somewhat of a thrower. I'm not sure why. You always see things like this, a wild streak in the way that they go before a guy has Tommy John. I'm not saying he's hurt, but one of the first things and the first notes to an elbow injury is that the loss of command. This guy's throwing the ball over the place, and look at his career numbers. It's never, ever been that way.
So you gave the starting pitching you gave the starting pitching edge to the Dodgers. Sounds like you think the bullpen edge goes to the Dodgers as well. You think the bullpen edge goes to LA. Yeah.
But if David Price throws 7 and punches out 14, it's going to be really start to start. And here's the thing about the postseason. Momentum is your starting pitcher, period. I don't care what the score of game 1 was or game 6 going into game 7. The starting pitcher is always the momentum changer. And I was talking about this in the ALCS, and you acknowledge this. You ever notice how a walk feels like a rally in October? And starting pitchers have, and I say that because I came out, my first postseason start in 1993, I struck out the first 5 guys I faced. And it was a rally, really. I mean, we generated offense off of defense, if that makes sense. And the postseason is the one place where that happens. And I think that with these guys, especially with Sale and Kershaw, who are, Sale and Kershaw could both go strike out the first 5 or 6 guys in a game. There's a potential momentum swing. But then you get to game 2 and you've got Hill against Price, and so those things can change day to day.
All right, so hold on. Let's make it official. Starting pitching, Curt gave the edge to the Dodgers. LA. Let's go to the bullpen. Make it official. Red Sox versus the Dodgers, and you think the Dodgers, again, have the advantage where the bullpen is concerned.
Yep, I do. I give the pitching advantage to both pitching advantages.
All right, let's go to the lineup. Who do you think has the advantage here, each side's offense?
Well, let's remember something, okay? We're talking about different shades of great. Both these teams led the league in runs scored. So they're the two. And remember, I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you do. We talked about it, actually. April, the Dodgers came out of the gates horrible. Horrible. And they're bounced back to lead the league in runs scored and win that division.
When we debuted this show on, I think it was right around the All-Star break, right, July 16th, weren't there the 3 or 4 teams in the National League West within 3 games or something like that?
Right. We were talking about the Colorado Rockies and the Diamondbacks and da-da-da-da. Right. But both of these teams led the league in runs scored, which means offense is not going to be an issue. There is, a unique dynamic. In the first 3 games, which we know there's going to be at least 4 games, of the first 3 games, 5 of the 6 starting pitchers are lefties, which I guess to the average fan, it might not be a big deal, but it does have an impact. The Dodgers are going to run out a 9-hitter, right-handed hitter lineup, and the Red Sox are going to hit Benintendi second and Jackie Bradley Jr. ninth. Again, Jackie Bradley Jr. was the ALCS MVP against lefty, and the Dodgers have righties to counter. If the Dodger lefties can get into the seventh, it's going to present a very, very challenging thing matchup wise for the Red Sox. And by the way, Boston, their offense led the league in average on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS. Not to be trifled with. But offensively, listen, you can do all the twisting and turning you want. I don't think there's any question that while I give the edge in the rotation to LA and the bullpen to LA, I don't even think the offenses are close.
Yeah, the offense, what we saw in the American League is the offensive advantage the Red Sox had over everybody else. They so decimated the Yankees and the Astros in the American League, which has the better hitting, obviously.
Right.
They so decimated the Yankees and Astros starting pitching that their bullpen problems were largely irrelevant in those two series.
Right. And I think that they're so far. Here's the thing about the Boston offense, and it goes back to Theo and 15 years ago. You can go 6 innings against the Boston offense and shut them out and throw 150 pitches. If you understand, every at bat is work, and it harkens me back to the late. Remember the Yankees in the late '90s, the 3 straight, and that they were just, their offense was insane. And then the Red Sox got Manny and David. And literally, Bill Miller in 2003 won the batting title. He was hitting 9th in the Red Sox lineup. I
was just watching on ESPN Classic the other day, the great NLCS game 4 or 3, I think it was, between the Astros and the Mets in extra innings.
Right. Oh yeah.
All right, and you forget how great that Mets team was that year. I mean, a Hall of Fame catcher, Gary Carter, is batting 6th in that lineup. Right. Okay. I mean, behind him are guys who would go on and be perennial 2020 players like Howard Johnson were batting 8th, batting 9th. Kevin Mitchell, who would go on and be an all-star with the Giants, was a pinch hitter, platoon player. That kind of offensive depth is what you're talking about here with the Red Sox.
Yeah. And like I said, I would give the Red Sox or the Dodgers that rotation edge, but slightly. The bullpen edge probably a little bit bigger, but nothing compares to the distance between the Dodger offense and the Red Sox offense. I think the Red Sox offense is light years ahead of the Dodgers. So
to me, this is the big question then in the series. Based on what you just said, and I put this question together not knowing this was going to be your analysis, but it feeds into my question perfectly. To me, the big question in the series, you tell me if I'm wrong, is can the Dodgers shut down a Red Sox lineup that's pretty much had a different hero because of its depth every single night of the postseason? Based on what you just told me, this is to me, I look at this now as a ratio algorithm.
Right.
Is the Dodgers pitching enough of an advantage to close the offensive gap that exists between them and the Red Sox? That's another way of putting it, right?
And I think when I give my pick at the end of this, you'll understand the answer. I'm not going to answer that question specifically right now, but as we go through this, I think it'll become clear for you. One of the questions you asked me was kind of the hidden key in all this.
Yeah.
I don't doubt for 1 second the major factor in the outcome of this World Series is Chris Sale's health. Period. It's because that leads to a later question, which is the Red Sox win if and the Dodgers win if. But Chris Sale's health is the overriding key in all of this for all of this entire series.
What are you going to look for then as a guy that's been on that mound in this Fall Classic in your career? What are you going to look for tonight in Game 1 that's going to tell you, I think he's ready, I think he's good?
Always watch, and this is for either starter, always watch fastball command in that first inning. And not the breaking balls and not what you will see is a couple things. One, these two guys, you'll see them use their pitches, all 3 or 4 of their pitches, much sooner today than they did during the regular season, because now it's all about getting every out from the get-go. You're not hiding anything. You've been scouted. Watch the fastball command, and let me just go to a sidetrack this. Teddy Barrett will be behind the plate tonight. He is the crew chief and for the umpiring crew, which, by the way, is a great crew. It's Teddy Barrett, Fielding Colbert, Jeff Nelson, Kerwin Danley, Chad Fairchild, Jim Reynolds, Tim Timmons is the crew. All very good umpires, all work the ALCS. Kershaw's 4-1, or Kershaw's strikeout rate is 4-1 with Barrett behind the plate. Sales is 3.5 to 1. Both of them have thrown quite a few innings. Kershaw's ERA with Barrett behind the plate. Teddy Barrett's a consistent umpire is what I'm saying. Teddy Barrett is a good, consistent, hard-working umpire, and that's going to bode well for both of them. yeah, Sale's health is the key. That's the X factor in all of this, I think, for a lengthy World Series in addition to that. There's also a couple other things I wanted to let's go through your list, and then I want to talk about pitch tipping in just a minute as well. I know we're running short here, but so the X factor, yes, Chris Sale's health. Your next thing was what? Managerial advice?
Yeah.
Which, listen,
you know what? No, let's do this. You've been in several of these.
Right.
And take a minute. What's your best memory, other than something obvious everybody watching is going to know? What's your best memory from pitching in a World Series?
I got to tell you, honestly, my best World Series memory wasn't pitching. My best World Series memory was going to Ground Zero less than a month after the event in 2001. Having the honor and the privilege of being amongst men and women who were changing the world in ways you never imagined, many of whom are not alive today because of the things that they suffered post 9/11 from being at Ground Zero. But we were at Ground Zero in the command center, which is something I can't even begin to describe to you what it looked like and smelled like as well. But there was a big board. I can't even describe the size of this map as we walked in there. It was probably 15 by 20 feet, and it was literally a square foot by square foot map of the site. And there were blue pins where they had found police officers, red pins where they had found firefighters, and yellow pins where they had found civilians. And the day when we were there, they pulled a firefighter out of the debris, and there was a ceremony every time they pulled out a first responder. And it was probably one of the more powerful moments of my entire life. And I realized that baseball gave me that. And that was one of the reasons why when I look back on the game, I always say I can never give it back more than it's given me, because it allowed me to present moments like that. But being in the World Series, being in New York during 2001 and those 3 games was probably one of my favorite memories of all time.
That's exceedingly powerful. So let's segue back to the series. Play manager. All right. You're Dave Roberts now. You're trying to avoid being the new Atlanta Braves, where you go to the postseason 14 times in a row and only win one World Series, right? These guys have been now 6 years in a row, haven't won a single one of these, right? They haven't won it since 88. So you're Dave Roberts, manager of the Dodgers. You guys win this series if what happens, Curt?
Clayton Kershaw wins 2 games. Dodgers win if Kershaw wins 2 games. And I'm going to make it very easy. On the flip side, Alex Cora and the Red Sox win if Sale wins twice. I think that is how big these guys' starts are, because I think that the other games are going to be a bullpen fest for the most part. Look for a monster start out of one of the 4 guys following: Price, Eovaldi, Hill, or Ryu. And the guy who is going to get no mention going into this series, the only righty the Dodgers are going to throw, might be the best pitcher not named Chris Sale in this season, in this postseason, is Walker Buehler. I'm anxious to see how he does back in LA. And I wanted to give the manager's advice in this sense. I watched Jim Fregosi bring in Mitch Williams in 1993, who had no arm left because he was so burnt out, because that's what he had done all year. He danced with the horse that brung you, right?
Sure, yeah.
The postseason, a lot of managers will do that to avoid second guessing. They will do what they've done all, hey, I did it all year. That's how we got here. Those things change here. There's a lot of gut to this from a late innings perspective that managers sometimes are afraid to do. I don't think either one of these guys is afraid to go against the norm. We saw Craig Counsell pull a starting pitcher after one hitter.
Right.
I think both of these pitchers need to live and believe.
Hey, Alex Cora set a guy down the night after he was the first postseason player to ever hit for the cycle. So that speaks to what you're talking about.
Yep.
Hey, one more thing on the Red Sox. The Red Sox win. See, I think you're right that Clayton Kershaw has to win 2 games. I think if Clayton Kershaw doesn't win 2 games and Chris Sale doesn't win 2 games, the Red Sox win. You see what I'm saying? I think the Red Sox need Chris Sale to win 2 games instead of Clayton Kershaw. But if Clayton Kershaw does not win 2 games, the offense that the Red Sox are going to bring to the table here, I think they win that way. You see where I'm going with that?
The only reason I might disagree with you there is that the Dodger bullpen, I think, is better than the Red Sox bullpen.
Is it much better? Demonstrably better, for example?
I think demonstrably better, although it could change. But the fact of the matter is, you got Drew Pomerantz now. He's on the roster. But the fact of the matter is this: if those 2 guys don't win 2 games, then you're counting on the bullpens in their games, right? I mean, for the most part. I think their bullpens are going to play into this a little bit later as well with these other starters. If it becomes a battle of bullpens, I think the Sox or the Dodgers bullpen is better. I don't know. It's what you said earlier. I don't know if the Dodgers bullpen is that much better than the Red Sox offense is better than the Dodgers. But
you
I
said
think
before we get to your prediction, you wanted to mention pitch tipping. We got 90 seconds left. Bring that up real quick.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Craig Kimbrell was tipping pitches, according to some people. He actually found out because the next teammate of his texted his pitching coach. His pitching coach brought the text to him, and he noticed it. There are a couple guys in this World Series who have been and gone down that path. I played with guys who went down that path when they weren't doing well. I'm tipping my pitches. They were looking for a reason, but he has been. If you want to, Alex Cora was the best I've ever seen at picking up pitchers tipping. If you want to understand pitch tipping, watch where the pitchers come set with their hands. And sometimes you'll tip your pitches by putting your hands in a different position for a fastball and a curveball, higher or lower, or where your right arm is on your hand or your throwing arm is in your glove. Pitch tipping is all about hands, where their hands are when they come set or where their feet are when they start. Mm-hmm. And I would argue that you're going to have two guys who pick the brains of everybody and have guys on the bench that do these things to the extreme. And that could play a factor into this.
All right. Get you on the record. Who wins the series? I had the Dodgers in the World Series in the preseason, but against the Yankees, I've given up on the Red Sox. They're winning to me. To me, they are, because they keep winning games the way you're not supposed to in the postseason, which means they're beating you. They're beating you when you get them out of their game. I think they're just this much better than everybody else. But what do you think?
The 2018 World Series champion Boston Red Sox will be led by World Series MVP Mookie Betts.
All right, great stuff, Curt Schilling, who knows a little bit about what it takes for a team in Boston to win a World Series or two. Curt, it was great to have you again here on CRTV. We will do it again tomorrow for our subscribers. Hope you enjoyed this free episode. Play ball.